Welcome back. Today I'm responding to a request I received to review a strategy, and it's a strategy in the video that you can see on screen here. I'll leave a link in the description where you can find the original of this video, and that will go into the full details of the strategy. But I'll show the summary when we get to writing the code. As you can see here, it's a claim 91% win rate. So I thought I'd write the expert advisor for this, and then I'd run some tests and see how it performs. And I've already written the code. We'll get to showing the code in a minute, but first I thought we'd look at the results. The result for Euro USD was an 86% win rate, Pound 85% win rate, Yen 81% win rate, and Gold 85% win rate. And I ran all of these tests over the 1 year period from October 23 until October 24. So the results are not quite as good as claimed in the original video, but they're still very good, and those small differences could simply be because the market's different over the time frame that I tested. But it's not quite as simple as just looking at the win rate, and I'll come back to that after we see how to write the code for this. Now I've already started on the expert here, it's just an outline. I keep that in a folder Orchard, and then I've created a folder for this particular expert, price action 91%, and this is price action 91%.mq5. Most of the code I will write will be compatible between MQ4 and MQ5, so if you're using MQ4 you should be able to follow along, and I'll show the places where there are some changes that need to be made for this to work under MQ4. All I have here at the beginning, there is a reference to the original video that I used. In that video, the time frame used was daily. It isn't actually specified, but it kind of mentioned through the video, so I'm going to stick with a daily time frame as well. Although this will, once you've written the expert, it will run on any time frame that you have on the chart. It's a 2-bar pattern that runs on the close of the bar, and for the close of the bar, you can't actually tell when a bar's about to close. There's no "I'm going to close" signal from a bar. You can try doing things like set the end of the bar time just before the time is due to run out, but I typically wait until the next bar opens. That has some good and bad features. If you're running on a daily time frame, for example, you can get a gap between the close of the previous day and the open of the new day. But there are also some good things in that it's easier than trying to find that time when the bar finishes the day before, and also you don't incur a carry cost by taking the trade just before midnight and the market closes until the next day. So the direction of bar number 1 in the pattern doesn't matter, but then the second bar. It's considered a down bar if the bar itself is bearish, so it closes below the open, and the close of that bar is below the low of the first bar. Doesn't matter what the first bar is, whether it's a bullish or bearish, as long as the close of the second bar is below the low of that bar. And the up bar is just the opposite. It's a bullish bar, so close is above open, and the close is above the high of the first bar. So that's the 2-bar setup. If we have a down bar, then we'll enter a trade buy if during the next bar the price crosses that high of the second bar. And if it's an up bar, then we'll enter a sell if during the next bar the price crosses below the second bar low. So it's kind of a reversion strategy. We're waiting for a candle to move back into the range of an earlier candle, and then we're going to trade if the price reverses again and continues in the opposite direction. The close rules are pretty simple. At the end of a candle, if we're in profit, then we close. If we go through 10 bars without a profit, then we'll close anyway. Now I'll mention this again a bit later, but this means there is no stop loss and there is no fixed profit margin. Now for that last point, closing after 10 bars, I'm not including the opening bar. So we open on a bar and then I'll count the close of that bar plus 10 more bars before I close the actual trade. And that's based on viewing the examples provided in the video. It's not actually stated. So I've got an outline here, have really nothing. I've got the on init, on dinit, and on tick, and I've just got the standard properties here. If this is MT4, you'll probably also want to include property strict. I can include that in MT5, it doesn't hurt. And you should do that because it actually changes the way the code is understood by the compiler. Now for inputs, there are no indicators used here, so the only inputs I have are the order size, the magic, and the trade comment. Okay, so just order size, magic number, and trade comment. Now to make the actual trading a little bit easier in MT5, scroll that a little bit, I'm also going to include some of the standard classes. So I've brought in the trade class and the position info class, and then I create one variable of each type, a C trade and a C position info. If you are using MQL4, do not include these lines because they will fail and you don't need them. And I also want a couple of global variables because I want to set the entry price and the sell price once that 2-bar pattern is identified. And then, as I said, I am closing after 10 bars. I'm going to create a constant for that. Now, during initialization, I need to set the magic number in this trade object. And then every trade that I place will have that magic number applied. If you're using MT4, you obviously don't do that. We'll set the magic number when the order is placed. Also, from the strategy, this only trades at the beginning of a bar and only closes at the beginning of the bar, so I need something to tell me when the bar has changed, and I have a standard function for that. And my standard function is IsNewBar, and I'll go and write that now, but I call it once here at the onInit because the IsNewBar will return true every time it's called if the existing bar time is not the same as the current bar time, and it would return true on the first call. And because I don't want to return a true if I'm in the middle of a bar, so I've just opened this up in the middle of the day and I don't want to return true and perform a trade middle of the day, I make a call one time here, and then the next time I call it during the middle of the day, it will return a false. So let's write the IsNewBar function and you'll maybe understand that a little better. So the IsNewBar function, and I do have a video on this and I'll leave a link in the description as well. So I have a static date time, the previous time, initialized to 0. I get the current time from the beginning time of the current symbol and period, bar number 0, that's the current open bar. If the previous time is equal to the current time, then I haven't created a new bar, and I return not DOS but false. Return false because it's not a new bar. If these two are different, then it means current time has moved forward, and I set previous time equal to the current time, so that the next time through this will return a false, and then I return true because they were different. And this is where I said previous time equals 0 is always going to return true the first time it's called. So I call it once, and that just initializes previous time. So that's it for the onInit function. Then nothing in onDinit. I haven't got any objects I need to delete. And then we're down to onTick. According to the strategy, if we get a new bar, then we should test for close conditions. And I should also check to see if the 2-bar setup has happened. So I'm going to handle the closing of the trades with a CloseTrades function, which I will write in a moment, and then the reset entry prices function to set up those buy and sell entry prices. Let's start with the CloseTrades. So first thing I'm doing here in CloseTrades, I'm setting up this old bar time. That's going to be the start time for the bar, and anything opened before that must be 10 bars old, and I will close them. So to get the old bar time, it's just the I time for the symbol, the period, and using that old bar index constant that I created. So this will give me the start time of bar number 10. And remember, current bar is bar number 0. Then I loop through for int I equals positions total -1, while I is greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. Now if you're using MT4, this is going to be orders total. Then if not position select by index, so position info, so this is the position info object that I created earlier. Where is it? Here. It has a method called select by index, which returns false if it's unable to select the position at this I location in the list. If I else, then continue, which will just go back to the beginning of the loop again. And then I also check position info.symbol must match the chart symbol, and magic must match the input magic. So that's how I make sure I've selected a position that is for this expert on this symbol. Now, if you're using MetaTrader 4, this is going to be order select, this would be order symbol, and this would be order magic number. Then I get the profit from, again, the position info.profit, and the open time of the trade from position info.time. And if you're using MetaTrader 4, this would be order profit, and this would be order open time. So if the profit's greater than 0, according to the rules, as soon as I have a candle that closes with a greater than 0 profit, or if the time of opening this position is older than the old bar time, which means it's more than 10 bars old, then I'm just going to close it. And then trade.position close, position info.ticket. And if this is MetaTrader 4, you would be calling order close and passing in order ticket, order lots, and order close price, and 0 for slippage. So that takes care of closing everything. That will close everything that is either in profit or that is too old. Next, reset entry prices. So I'm creating an array of rates, which is of type MQL rates, and then I'm using the copy rates. So that will give me the open and close prices for each of the bars from bar number 0 for 3 bars. So that's 0, 1, and 2. And it will put them in that rates array for the current symbol and the current period. So this is quicker than actually getting the high and low and the open and close for each individual bar. And it puts everything in this array for me. Then I call array set as series because I want rates 0 to match candle or bar number 0, and 1 matches 1 and 2 matches 2. I'm initializing the buy and sell entry prices both to 0 because if the conditions aren't met, this will simply exit and then they will be 0, so I won't trade on them. And then here are the conditions. So if rates 1 close is greater than rates 1 open, so it's a bullish candle, and rates 1 close is greater than rates 2 high. So rates 2 is the initiating candle and rates 1. So I'm closing above the high of candle number 2, and then I want the sell entry price to be equal to the low of candle number 1. And then I have just the opposite for the buy. If rates 1 close is less than rates 1 open, so candle number 1 is a bearish candle, and the close for candle number 1 is less than the low of candle number 2, then I'm setting a buy at the high of candle number 1. So you can see that if neither of these conditions are met, then buy and sell will still be 0, and I can't think of a condition where they might both be set, so either we'll have a sell entry price or a buy entry price. Back to on tick, all I need to do now is test whether the current price has moved beyond that buy entry or sell entry price. So to test the entry conditions, I'm creating another variable which is of type MQL tick, and then I'm using symbol info tick for the chart symbol, passing in that tick to fill that with the bid and the ask and some other values, but I only really care about the bid and the ask price for the most recent tick. And if the buy entry price is greater than 0, it means I have set a buy entry price. And if the ask price is greater than or equal to the buy entry price, so ask is the entry price for buy trades, then I simply call another function that I'll write, open trade, passing in the order type buy and the open price, which is the ask price from the tick. Just the opposite for the sell. If it's greater than 0, so it has been set, and the bid is less than the entry price, then I'll open a sell trade, passing in the bid price. Almost everything for on tick. We'll have to come back to that in a moment. Let's just write this open trade function. Open trade, I'm passing in the order type and the price. I'm performing a normalized double on the price. I shouldn't need to do that because it is coming from a bid or an ask price, so it should be good, but if not, normalized double on the price for the number of digits of the current chart symbol. And then I call trade.position open on that symbol, the order type, the size of the order, the price passed in, 0 stop loss, 0 take profit, and the trade comment. If you're using MetaTrader 4, this would be order send, the symbol, the type, the order size, the price, a 0 for slippage, and a 0 for stop loss, and 0 for take profit, the trade comment, and then the magic number. And then if that doesn't work, so if I get a not trade position open, then I'm going to print an error message, and I'm not doing anything here to handle cases where that open may have failed. I'm just going to print the error message and carry on. But after I've opened a trade, I'll set the entry price and the sell price to 0 so that we won't continue to open trades on this candle. I think that's almost everything, but there's one serious problem here. If I'm running this on a daily candle, I will get an on tick at the beginning of each day. Typically, the market is closed when that happens. If I then call close trades while the market is closed, the close is simply going to fail. So running this on a daily chart and trying to close trades on the first tick of each day is just not going to work. What I need to do is completely skip out of this on tick function if the market is closed, because there's nothing I can do. So I'm going to add another function. So if the market is not open, I'm just going to return from this, and that means that I'll actually be processing the first tick after the market opens. And this is where I mentioned earlier, if you're trading a daily chart, you're going to get a certain time gap and price gap between the close of the last day and the first trade this day. You may want to write this such that you're attempting to identify the end of each day, maybe subtract a few seconds from the end of the day and try to trade then. But that does also mean you'll incur an extra day of carry costs. So that's up to you. I'm choosing to continue to process this at the beginning of the day, and I'm going to add this IsMarketOpen function. This is a custom function, so I'll write that now. Now this is a fairly simple function, but you kind of need to follow what's going on. First I'm declaring an MQL date time variable, I'm just calling that time, and then I'm using time trade server passing in that time, so it will populate this variable. If you're using MetaTrader 4, then you won't have time trade server, so you'll just have to use time current. The main reason I'm using time trade server instead of time current will return the server time of the last tick, which is usually now. But just in case you're performing some kind of function that's based on maybe an event timer rather than the last tick, then it's possible that server time has moved on since then. So time trade server should give you the actual current server time. For this expert, I don't think it makes a difference. So if you're using MQL4, just use time current here. And you can also use time current on MQL5 for this expert. An enum day of the week, DOW, casting enum day of the week, and that time, that MQL date time, has a property called day of week, so it will return the day of the week. Now date times seconds, I want to know how far I am into the current day, and that's just hour by 3600 plus time by 60 plus the number of seconds, or minutes, time dot min. There we go. So hours by 3600, minutes by 60, and seconds. I'm declaring two variables, from time and a to time, because what I'm going to do is pick up the trading sessions through the day, and each of those sessions has a start time and an end time, or as I'm calling them, from time and to time. For a lot of symbols there is one session each day, and maybe at weekends there are no sessions. But some symbols, futures for example, might have a close period in the middle of the day as well, so they actually have two sessions. It's very unusual to have more than two sessions. I've never seen it, but I want to allow for that anyway. So I have here a loop for int session number equals 0, no exit condition, and then session plus plus. So what this will do is continually increment the session while it runs through this loop, and I don't have an exit condition on the for statement because I do have this return false. But I've had someone tell me that this goes into an infinite loop. I was unable to reproduce that, but just in case it's a problem, I'm going to add here session less than 20. Very unusual for it to get to 20, so it should exit before that. The reason I didn't have an exit condition on this, I'm calling this function symbol info session trade, passing in the chart symbol, the day of the week, the session number from this loop, and then the from time and the to time. This function will populate the from and the to time with the start and end times of this session number for this day of the week, and it will return false if there is no session. At least that's what it's supposed to do. And so if this returns a false, then I simply return false because it means that I haven't been able to find a session that is open during this current time. Now, this of course depends on your broker having information set up correctly. So if your broker doesn't set the from and to times on their sessions correctly and they actually close the market but say that it's open, I really can't do anything more about that. But this should return false if I don't get a result back from symbol info session trade. If I do get a result back, then I'm going to compare, because as I said, sometimes there are more than one session in the day, or even if there is only one session, but I'm maybe testing this just after midnight and before the daily trading opens, then this from time will be later than now. Or if I'm testing towards the end of the day, then this to time is going to be less than now. So if seconds, which is my seconds into the day, is greater than or equal to the from time and less than or equal to the to time, then the current time is inside a session and I can just return true. If I keep going through this loop and I actually hit 20 sessions, then I'll exit the loop and I'll just return false because I couldn't find a session that matches current time. So that's the IsMarketOpen. And there we go. That's everything for that expert. And now we'll move on and run some tests. So we're back now and you've seen how to write the code, and I've shown you the results earlier, at least in terms of the profitability or number of winning trades. And as the original video shows, very high win rate. But this is common in a lot of these type of videos where they claim a high win rate, but you then have to look at the actual win amount. Now, I ran my tests trading one full lot on a $25,000 balance over 1 year, and here is the euro result, $3,544 profit. That's not a good profit. It's not bad, but it's also risking an entire lot on each trade. The actual value of the win is not so high, although I do have a very high win rate. And that's because, if you remember from the strategy, I close the winning trades as soon as they're in profit. So I could be making very tiny profits, but I'll hold the losers for 10 candles. There is no stop loss, so the losses could be very large. And as you'll see here on this euro, my largest profit was $859 on one lot. My largest loss is $1,705. The average profit, $260, and the average loss, $743. So the losses on average over that year were 3 times the size of the profits. So that 86% win rate is not quite so good when you consider that the losers are much bigger than the winners. But on the other hand, as you can see here, I've traded a full lot to get $3,500 profit out of a $25,000 deposit. So a high win rate, you can simply increase the lot size. But the other thing you can do is just trade more instruments. So instead of trading one lot on euro, I could trade half a lot on euro and half a lot on pound, or I could trade a quarter of a lot euro, quarter on pound, quarter on yen, quarter on gold, and so on. You get the idea. I prefer the trading multiple instruments because it does spread my risk around. If I find that the conditions on one symbol are particularly bad, then it doesn't mean that I'm losing an entire lot. It means I'm losing a smaller amount, and it kind of spreads that load around. So in one sense, high win ratio, low win value, but if I simply trade more, I can make up for the low value with this particular strategy. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to return these kind of percentage of win rates. It did over that year that I tested from October 23 to October 24. You should make up your own mind on that. And you may want to do things like incorporate a take profit and a stop loss so that you can maybe squeeze higher profits and protect yourself against runaway losses. Hope you found this useful. And if you did, remember, click the like button. And if you want to see more of my videos, then click subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when videos are released. Thank you for watching.